this. This is the badge of honor that TVS rarely puts on its motorcycles, let alone its scooters. So imagine our excitement when we first saw the NTorq 125 with the TVS racing badge around 2.5 years ago. And boy, did it live up to the expectations, as it instantly converted you into a teenager raging with hormones who just wanted to hoon. But the beauty of the NTorq was that it could do all of that without compromising on the practical stuff. For 2020, TVS has added fuel injection and it has become cleaner in terms of emissions. But the updates come at a steep price. So how have the updates affected the sportiest 125cc scooter on sale in India? And do you actually need to spend rupees 2,500 extra to get this, the fancy Race Edition? A quick glance at the spec sheet, and yeah, it seems to be identical to the BS4 scooter. And yeah, thanks to the inclusion of fuel injection, it should be quicker than the older scooter because it's now got more precise fueling. But there is one big problem. The new NTorq is slower than the older scooter, significantly slower. 1.6 seconds slower from 0 to 60 kmph. I mean, how's that possible?
There are two reasons. First one being BS6. The exhaust gases aren't flowing out as easily through the pipes as before, and that impacts performance. And
just like you and I, even the NTorq has put on a little bit of weight during this lockdown period. 1.9 kilos to be precise. And to compound matters further, since our motorcycle tester could not test motorcycles during the lockdown period, he has been sitting on his butt all day and hogging all the delicious meals that his mama's been making him, gaining 4 kilos in the process. Why Ben? Because मालूम है अभी test करने का है गाड़ी, गाली पड़ेगा अभी comments में. Sorry man, let me just whip him into shape. But how much ever we try to beat Ben back into shape, it still doesn't justify the deficit.
the 125cc NTorq used to be almost as quick as the Aprilia SR 150, which was incredible. Fighting with its 125cc peers might seem like a letdown after that. While we do miss the initial burst of acceleration of the BS4 scooter, it still feels thoroughly enjoyable to ride even now.
It is right to feel disheartened, as going green might be robbing the NTorq of some of its redeeming qualities. But before you dismiss the scooter and shut this video, hold on. There is some good news. From running with the carburetor to being fuel injected, we knew that the fuel efficiency figures of the NTorq would improve, but not to this extent, as the BS6 NTorq manages to deliver 51.5 kmpl in the city and a little over 56 kmpl on the highway. Now I know what you guys are going to do at this point in the video. You're going to pause it, head down in the comment section and say, oh, हमें तो इतना नहीं देती है. Oh, how did you manage such a great figure? Let us tell you that these figures are achieved only if you ride very economically. That means getting on the gas smoother, no chasing top speeds, and never stressing the engine out. And then if you do ride like this, you will be able to achieve these figures. But the figures don't paint the entire picture. You see, the NTorq now holds 0.8 liters more fuel, which you can fill right here. And if my maths is right, you will be able to ride the NTorq for around 60 to 65 km more than the older BS4 scooter. Furthermore, the range on the NTorq 125 BS6 is roughly 40 kilometers extra in both city and on the highway than the Axis 125. Great! Another major improvement that we have found on the BS6 NTorq 125 is just how smooth the 124cc 3-valve mill has become. And before you ask it, here's what it sounds like. Yeah, the old throaty, racier exhaust note seems to be missing over here. Kind of feels subdued on the BS6 NTorq. But refinement levels are comparable to that of the Axis or the Activa. Only at higher speeds, where the Japanese duos start to feel borderline boring, the NTorq has a bit of gruffness that makes you feel engaged and excited. There isn't much difference in the ride and handling department of the NTorq BS6 to its predecessor. It still offers a balanced ride and rarely gets flustered over bumps. And despite the 1.9 kg extra heft that you're hauling, it still is light to maneuver around town and can make mince of traffic. Braking hardware remains the same as before, with the Race Edition only arriving with a front disc rear drum setup. The NTorq still possesses one of the best brakes in the segment, but they do have to handle a bit more weight, which has increased braking distance by a meter when coming to a standstill from 60 kmph. Now the only scooter that stops shorter is the Honda Activa 125 BS6. TVS hasn't changed a single body panel from the regular NTorq to this Race Edition, and we aren't complaining. What you now get on the Race Edition is this lovely dual-tone color scheme with bits like the 3D logo, these checkered flag graphics, and even this carbon fiber-esque seat cover, bringing out the raciness of the scooter even further. And now you also get this Race Edition in yellow. Which one do you prefer? Let us know in the comments. In fact, the NTorq already looks like it is 10 kmph faster than what it was. And considering that it is targeted towards the millennial generation, looking fast is just as important as going fast. In a recent review of the Apache RTR 200 4V, you made it known that you didn't like the new face of the bike. Well, what do you have to say about this one? Has TVS done a better job, or is there still something left to be desired? Let us know in the comments. But for us, we do like this new striking, attacking face. And it does kind of remind you of the one that you find on the KTM 390 Duke, doesn't it? Now the obvious differences here being that the elements are stacked on just 2 levels, not 3. And notice this T design element here? Well, that has been copy pasted into this headlamp from the tail light. While it looks fancy, the headlight doesn't quite match up to its rivals in terms of illumination. Better spread for the low beam and better throw are needed. Smartphone connectivity isn't new to this variant. The NTorq 125 was already the first scooter in the country to get the feature. While bits like a lap timer and a 0 to 60 kmph recorder were already present, we expected the Race Edition to at least have a checkered flag greeting message on the dash. This particular trim also gets a hazard toggle switch, which is more of a novelty feature and would rarely come in handy. The under-seat LED light and USB charger are useful, but you get them on the regular disc trim as well. Just like every other two-wheeler in the country, the TVS NTorq 125-2 has become quite expensive without many new features to justify the extra asking price. On an average, the new NTorq 125 is rupees 10,000 dearer than its BS4 counterpart. And for that, you just get a fuel injection and a slightly larger fuel tank. That said, it still manages to undercut the likes of the Suzuki Bergman Street 125 and the Honda Grazia 125 by a significant margin. And let us not even get to the pricing of the Vespas or the Aprilia 125s. And of all the scooters mentioned, the BS6 NTorq continues to be the most youthful and energetic scooter with a feature set that none can match. Sure, it has lost the edge when it comes to performance, but it very well makes up for it when it comes to fuel efficiency and engine refinement. If the performance deficit is a bit of a downer for you, then maybe we suggest you head up to the internet and search for some good deals on BS4 NTorqs. But if you aren't too bothered with it, this BS6 NTorq does make a good case for itself. And finally, which variant of the NTorq should you buy? Well, the drum brake variant isn't even in the reckoning. More safety is always welcome. So if you aren't an attention seeker, then you can live without this fancy livery, the new LED headlight, and even for that matter, the hazard toggle switch. The regular disc variant makes perfect sense for you. But let's be honest, you didn't buy the NTorq because you wanted a subtle scooter, right? So the Race Edition will definitely be our pick, and you will not regret spending the extra 2,500 rupees for it.